over your tenure as an HR leader or as a in this HR vertical, how has the industry evolved from your vantage point? Because
Oh my
now
goodness.
now we hear a lot from, I think, World Economic Forum is saying the work is changing. There is a lot of emphasis on there's a lot of talk around the future of work, emergence of automation in workplace. So as a HR leader, how has the world of HR evolved? If you can walk us through that?
Oh, do you have a couple hours? No, I'm kidding. The world of HR has absolutely been on a significant evolution. You know, when I started in HR, a lot of people still thought of HR as personnel administration, and very program process oriented in terms of the work of HR. But over time, moving into the 90s, that's when we all started to move towards the model that many adapted, which was shared services, centers of expertise, and HR business partners. But what's been interesting recently is just this acceleration of inflections that have huge implications for people and organizations and cultures. And so I think the role of HR has never been more important than it is now. I think HR has always played an important role, but it has absolutely changed over time. And so now where we are as a global society and in working in our companies and wanting our companies to be successful, there's never been more need for strong HR leadership capability throughout the whole industry, all of our industries. I think there's never been a greater need. And to your point about last year in 2020, with the global pandemic, which essentially changed and disrupted everything that we knew. And going forward is how do you shape and create the organizations of the future that are going to be competitive, that are going to be able to create great market value in an environment where the talent supply of the future is very different than the talent supply of the past. And so, there are just, we could probably spend the whole podcast just talking about this alone.
I couldn't agree more. So I think you brought up an interesting point about the pandemic. I think last year had been a pretty interesting year for leaders, for industry designers, for organizational leaders who are. And I think if you look at your organization, it's like a diverse town in itself. It's all across. It's globally spread. So when you look at how has the year been from your vantage point, what are some of the learnings that you have incurred over the last 1 year?
Well, for sure, what we learned immediately was that we could be incredibly adaptive because we literally sent everybody home overnight. And, so you think about, I think that might be Josh Bersin who talks about this, that the change, how we think about change of the past, that, driving change and change management in companies is a multi-year endeavor. We've learned that it's actually possible overnight. Yes. The acceleration of change and our ability to literally turn everything upside down within 24 hours is possible. So that's one thing that I think is absolutely a learning. I think the other thing that we learned is how resilient people are, to literally go. And of course, many people came back to work immediately. Our industry is was considered an essential business as in the semiconductor industry. And so while we sent everybody home overnight, we very quickly realized that, we're an essential industry. We need to get people back. And the resilience of people to come together and work through a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fears around the health implications, obviously. But it was really remarkable to see the strength of people and the willingness to adjust and adapt and to do whatever they could to support the company was absolutely incredible. And so that was a major. I knew people were resilient, but when you see people in the middle of a significant transformative inflection in terms of how companies work, figuring it out and problem solving and coming together and working together for the good of the customers and the good of the people was really, really just an amazing experience. So obviously the implications as we think about going forward is how does this new world change how we work? And as far as the world of virtual, the world of hybrid arrangements, and obviously there are certain roles that are absolutely required to be on site as well. And so I think we're in a really creative phase, to tell you the truth, which can be a little bit unsettling for people that want more certainty. But I think that we're in a creative stage of looking at how can we take advantage of the lessons learned last year? How can we leverage that going forward, recognizing that there are new ways of interacting and connecting, but also recognizing that many people have the human need of being with people together in collaboration endeavors, in innovation endeavors. So I think we're in a really creative phase right now, and I think a lot of companies we're all balancing similar things depending on what country we're in and where the pandemic is, whether case rates are going up or case rates are going down, to be thinking about a phased approach to the new world, a phased approach to the future of work, if you will. And the planning of how do you bring more people back to campus, but still all the protocols around health and safety and masks and social distancing, et cetera. But then how do you accelerate being able to get people back as your vaccination rate goes up, the case rates are going down in certain cities. We're tracking obviously all that every day. But then longer term, how do we want to think about the future of work? And so I think it's a creative experimentation phase, to be honest. I think that companies that figure out how to do this well are going to win the talent market and are going to be the employers where great talent want to go and work and stay. And so it's interesting. I think about what we're facing. It's not a problem to be solved. I think sometimes we think it's a problem to be solved. It's not. It's a tension to be managed. And the tension is whatever the business needs are and employee needs. And there's no right or wrong answer, and every company and industry is going to have to figure out what makes the most sense for them. But sometimes we get into this problem solving, yes, no, it's either this or it's that. It's more of managing the tensions of, certainly many companies are going to require people to be on site to get work done, that the role requirements require it. But then how do you balance it with employee needs? And we know from our internal as well as external studies, people want more flexibility. Majority of people want some kind of a hybrid working model. And so it's how do you figure out how to do that while still meeting the business needs and recognizing that not everybody can work in that model, but being creative about how we think that through. And that's essentially where we're at now, coming. I wouldn't say we're certainly not out of the pandemic by any stretch of the imagination as we look at different countries and what's happening.